You are listening to The Standard Show, the podcast that brings you the stories behind the standards.
Hello, this is Matthew Giles.
And I'm Cindy Parakill.
Standards. Well, they affect all of us, every day, everywhere. By defining good practice, they help people, organisations, the economy and society do things better.
And every year, standards-making bodies around the world publish thousands of them for all sorts of things. For some of the big stuff that affects all our lives, like ISO 22000, an international standard that helps food producers and suppliers around the world manage risks and keep our food safe.
And it's not just the big stuff, it's the small stuff too. There's a standard for pen caps, which reduces the risk of asphyxiation if children accidentally swallow pen caps. Amazing, really.
And then there's everything in between, from standards that help organizations protect customer data and strengthen cybersecurity, to those that guide the safe and effective use of AI in medical devices, to those that ensure the cables that charge our smartphones work reliably.
In fact, if you viewed the artwork for this podcast episode or taken a photo on your smartphone today, you've likely relied on JPEGs, all made possible by the standard ISO IEC 10918 that defines how these images are compressed and displayed worldwide.
And standards like these are made by standards makers. Tens of thousands of people from around the world who get together to agree good practice to the way things are made and done, all helping to make life easier, safer, and more enjoyable.
Now, this episode of The Standards Show is my conversation with one of those standards makers, Adam Mason. Adam is a medical device testing engineer at Element Materials Technology, a global testing, inspection and certification company that helps ensure products meet safety and quality standards. In 2025, he represented the UK, BSI and its partners on the IEC Young Professionals Programme, the prestigious professional development initiative that brings together the next generation of expert engineers, technicians and managers from around the globe. I spoke to Adam about why he is a standards maker, the impact it's had on his career, and his advice to anyone looking to get involved in standards. I started by asking Adam about his current role.
For the last 3.5 years, I've been working as a medical testing technician / engineer. And I work with a company called Element Materials Technology, who are a big kind of international testing company that work on a whole range of different products. So with me personally, I do a lot of safety testing for different devices. So mainly lab-based equipment, measurement equipment, and medical products. So my role is really just all about making sure that these products pass the international safety standards, such as IEC 61010 and 60601. So that's kind of a brief overview of the things that I do. So it's mainly safety testing and inspection of different types of products.
And you touched on it there, but how important are standards to your job?
I'd say obviously they're absolutely central, because obviously every product that we get to test, it has to pass a certain standard. It has to pass the requirements of a different standard. And obviously, without the standard, we don't really have a good way of actually testing the products in a consistent manner. We don't really have any sort of pass or fail criteria or anything like that. So yeah, I mean the standards are absolutely crucial in the line of work that I do.
Now, obviously, Adam, you are a standards user here, but I'm interested in your standards making journey as well. So what's been your standards journey in that regard? You know, how and when did it start for you?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, with me, it also started when I joined Element a few years ago, and I'm mainly working with interpreting standards, so testing to the standards, interpreting the requirements to them. So that's obviously how it's kind of first started. But obviously, you know, as you become more experienced, you know, I think you start to become a bit more conscious of, you know, why are things in the standards written the way that they are? Why are there certain requirements? How did they come to certain decisions? So in terms of the standards making process for me, obviously I'm still very early in my career. However, as you know, I did get the chance to go to the Young Professionals Programme this year in India. And that obviously gives a really good opportunity to actually see the kind of behind the scenes, see all the different working committees that actually, make these standards. So in terms of, the making of the standards, still very early in my career, but thanks to the Young Professionals Programme, I'm kind of starting to get to see that side of things a bit more.
I want to come back to the IEC Young Professionals Programme in a second, but just to sort of pause on that sort of your motivations there. You said there you're interested in how things were done in terms of the standards making or standards development process itself. So what were your motivations for getting involved? Was it pure personal or professional or a mixture of the two?
I think definitely it's a mixture of two. I think when I went to when I was in school, when I was at uni, I didn't really know much about standards. There was some course modules on like UKCA marking and CE marking. So it was a very brief overview of safety compliance. But obviously, I think when you start to get into the world of developing products and testing to them, you begin to realise just how important standards actually are when it comes to this, just making products and developing them. So, at first, obviously, when I first started, it was more about just learning all about the different standards that I test to. But now I think, obviously, as I become more experienced, it's more about obviously learning all of the kind of behind the scenes stuff, as I mentioned, and also just looking for opportunities to try and contribute really to that standards making process. On a personal level, it was also my dad and my brother and the rest of my family that really motivated me to go. Because at first, when I first learned about it, I wasn't really sure, obviously, what it involved. So I was a bit reserved. I wasn't really sure, but it was them that really encouraged me to say, it's a really unique opportunity. It's a chance to go to a country in India where you might not get the chance again, and you never know. You might end up absolutely really, really enjoying it. Say, the worst thing that can happen is that you don't enjoy it, but at least you can say that you went. But as I say, I'm really, really glad that they encouraged me to go, because it was a fantastic opportunity and one that I definitely won't forget.
Now, you said you obviously successful in your application to go on the IEC Young Professionals Programme this year. You represented the UK, BSI and its partners on that programme, and we were very grateful for you going there for us, Adam. Tell us about the experience. What was it like being on the IEC Young Professionals Programme?
Definitely a very interesting experience. Obviously, I think it provides a very unique opportunity for when you're at quite a young stage in your career, because it gives you the chance to meet a lot of the kind of senior officials of the IEC. So whether that be the president or the secretary, all the different members of the boards and the chairs. So it's really interesting in that regard. You get the opportunity to do a lot of networking and get the chance to really see a lot of what goes on in the IEC, whether that's attending all the different technical committees, whether it's being involved also with the other young professionals that are on the programme, getting insights into what they do, because obviously everyone that you'll see on the Young Professionals Programme, they all come from different backgrounds. So obviously I'm more from the testing side, but you get the chance to meet people that are more of the kind of research and development side. So you get to see the kind of their interpretation of standards and how you actually develop products to all the different standards. So yeah, it was a really fantastic opportunity, very hands-on. You're working very hard through that week. As I said, doing all the different activities, all the different meetings and things like that. But it was a very, very great opportunity, and as I said, very, very worthwhile.
Now you've had this opportunity, you've been involved and seen things from the sort of inside, as it were. Now, normally in this particular series of the Standards Show, we're talking about what standards the actual standards making. Sorry. We talk about the standards that standards makers are making. Obviously, you're about to start that on your journey here. So, what standards will you be involved with?
Yeah, so for me personally, as an engineer that's more focused on the medical side of things, the big one for us is IEC 60601. So that is the international standard for safety testing for medical products, and also that covers a very wide range of different products that are used in hospitals and lab environments and all that sort of stuff. So I believe the technical committee for that is TC62, and they are the technical committee on behalf of the IEC, who will essentially manage all the different standards that under that 60601 umbrella. So for me, definitely, I think 60601 will be the main standard that I'm looking to get more involved in the future.
Now, talking about the future there, Adam, obviously you're at the start here, the start of this particular journey. Maybe you could look ahead for me, and I'd love to know what you think the impact of being a standards maker will have on your career.
Yeah, definitely. I think looking forward, I'd love to keep involved with the IEC. Obviously, as a young professional, it gives me the opportunity over this next year to get involved in more things, such as the different technical committees. So definitely, especially those that are also linked to medical products. So I think, kind of short term, I'd like to try and stay involved with the IEC, maybe working alongside other young professionals, and helping them with maybe some projects that they want to do, and then also looking forward, maybe even further in the future. I think being able to represent the UK as a delegate on some of these technical committees would definitely be a major goal of mine. So yeah, I think that's looking forward. I mean, that's probably some of the main things that I'm looking at the moment.
Now, you are a standards user, Adam, and you're about to become a standards maker. I know it's very early days, but maybe pick out a highlight for me if you can. In terms of a highlight of your not necessarily proudest standards making moments so far, but something that you've really thought, oh, that was an incredible experience. It could be a small thing or a big thing, but what's been the most important thing so far in your standards journey?
Yeah, for sure. Probably quite an easy answer, like a cheat answer, but I definitely say the chance to go to the IEC general meeting as a young professional this year. As I mentioned before, it's just a really, really great opportunity to get to meet so many different experts in the field, and get to meet so many people that are involved in the IEC and involved in making these standards every day. And so yeah, definitely I would say that would be by far probably, I guess, the proudest moment so far.
And any particular moment during that very intense week that you had in India? Anything particularly that stood out for you?
I think personally it was just the opportunity to meet all the other young professionals. Obviously, as I say, coming from different backgrounds, obviously some of them are maybe just maybe they've just started, maybe they've got like 10 years of experience, or someone like me that's only got a few years of experience. But it's really interesting, just being able to talk about all the different all the different things that they do in their day-to-day lives, and you manage to get you manage to find a lot of things that you've got common. And really, ultimately, I think you become very, very good friends with the people that are on the programme very quickly. So yeah, I would say for me, it was just the opportunity to get to meet a lot of the young professionals.
Now, Adam, you made a commitment and a decision to get involved in standards. What advice would you give to anyone else considering doing the same?
I would just say that if you get any opportunities, so for example, if you get the opportunity to go to the Young Professionals Programme next year or the year after, I'd say that just go for it. Even if you feel maybe you're a bit too early in your career, or maybe if you feel that it wouldn't be worth your time, I think you would be really surprised at how much you can learn in such a short space of time. I think it really helps to give a much more holistic view of the field that you work in, because obviously it can be very easy to get kind of tunnel visioned on the work that you do in your day to day. And it's sometimes hard to kind of see the sort of bigger picture. So I think that's a really big thing. As I say, getting the chance to meet with people from all over the world, getting the chance to network with a lot of people that are very high up in the IEC. So I would say, like, the earlier that you can start, the better. So I'd say that if you get any opportunities, whether that's attending technical committees, whether that's getting involved with your national committee, or as I say, getting involved in the Young Professionals Programme, I would just say go for it.
Now, like Adam, you too might want to be part of the standards community, sharing your expertise to shape standards for medical devices. Maybe you want to create smarter transport solutions or make a difference in the field of baby feeding products, or maybe cybersecurity. It doesn't matter. Whatever your thing, get involved in standards. We welcome applicants from all fields, backgrounds and career stages. Our goal is simple: to have a balance of perspectives around the table. So start that standards journey now. Details of how to do so are in the show notes. And the show notes are also where you can find details of our socials and all the other ways to get in touch with us here on The Standard Show.
You have been listening to an episode of The Standard Show, the podcast that brings you the stories behind the standards.
You just heard a Stripped Media production.